Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining Track 2. We are very, very fortunate to have Pradnya here, who is going to take us on this fantastic topic calling Are Your Products Operation Holding Back Innovation? Again, innovation is a very big topic, especially with regards to how we actually manipulate or come up with new ideas and new products and services. So I'm eager to learn from Pradnya how she can actually take us through the thought leadership of how this can be something that is going to be different. Pradnya, thank you for joining us again. Over to you for the topic.
Thank you, John, for the wonderful introduction.
No worries.
Before we start, John, can you put out the poll so that I will get to understand my audience better?
Yeah, I think we have two poll questions. Just going to put that up already. So the first question is, what is your experience with big data? I think this is for the audience to so-called feedback to us to understand where you're coming from, so that I think Pradnya can better tailor some of the questions or concerns that may arise later on. Okay, I see that we have mostly big data professionals. Interesting.
Yeah.
That means that we are talking to techie people like
Yeah.
me. That's a good one. Right, let's get to the next question quickly. How much impact does your current role bring on your company or client's final product? Interesting. So I think Pradnya would like to find out how is this, let me just start the poll. How is this actually impacting? So if you are directly impacting with your client or your company's final product, sorry, excuse my tongue, getting a bit tongue-tied. Okay, I'm seeing a response now. Okay, some has told, okay, a few more interesting answers. So Pradnya, actually, most of our participants, over 60%, has chosen the answer 4, which is 75%. And I have the remaining, okay, changing to 25% or even less than 10. So majority is taking the answer 75%, that they have a kind of an impact into their company or their client's final product.
Okay.
There we have it.
That's
Okay,
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, interesting. I think most people say that they do have a hand in the final product. So share with us, how does it make sense out of all this?
Yeah, sure.
Over to you.
So in this presentation, my goal is to provide you guys a product perspective towards the data product operations. So the reason why I asked this question is just to understand the audience, what impact they think they are bringing to the final product. Because at the end of the day, in any organization, final product is the most important thing that brings in revenue to the companies or the client companies, whoever you are working with. So that was the reason why I brought up that question. So we can get started with the presentation. So when I say product operations, what I truly mean is, in simple terms, the steps that you take to build your data deliverables for your external customers. For example, if you're delivering a dashboard, then the steps that you must be taking to build your dashboards, it could be the ETL process, reading external data, prepping the data, publishing the dashboard, even meetings, right? So these are the steps that encompass the tasks that are needed for the product operations. So product operation is one of the understated part in most of the today's organization, and I'll tell you why. Because most of the organizations focus solely on individual tasks that are needed, and especially where there is a client and vendor relationship, it brings a lot of confusion about what we are working towards. So it is very much important that in today's organization, and even if you're working for the client, you need to know that you're working toward a certain product that is bringing in a revenue for your client. Based on 2022 Data Vantage data survey, only 26% of the companies, even in today's age, have successfully become data driven, while rest of the companies have even invested billions and billions of dollars in becoming data driven and data initiatives and AI initiatives. focusing on operations will not only help you to become truly a data driven organization, but in a way that it will give access to all the people who are involved in these operations, right? Different tasks that are required to build a certain product, they will get capability and access to leverage this data and take important business strategic decisions. So apart from that, there are many other benefits, right? There is a product efficiency, dollars of saving, you have an competitive advantage, you build a whole new innovation culture that is going to help you to move forward in future. So these are different benefits of if you focus on product operations and start seeing things from the product's point of view, rather than technological tasks point of view. So how do we achieve this? The first step is truly understanding your product, right? In the field of big data analytics, most of the products fall in these four important categories. One is descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. So descriptive type of product tells usually customers what has happened. It gives you insights on that. And in diagnostic type of category, it tells customers why something has happened. In predictive type of category, it tells customers when will happen or what will happen. And the last but not the least, prescriptive type of category tells customers what actions that you must take, a customer should take based on the things that will happen, right? So your product can belong to one or more of your categories. As you can see, the prescriptive type of product categories are kind of the complex categories. It involves advanced AI technology, needs high quality of data scientists, and they are not that scalable. While the descriptive type of products like dashboards or even data tables, if you are delivering it to your customers, they are highly scalable. They are less complex, and you don't need really. You probably need data analyst level of roles to handle those kind of operations. Okay. So to improvise operations, I will be discussing with you two main types of strategies. First is comprehensive product innovation strategies, and the other one is non-exhaustive. And as name suggests, comprehensive is kind of a detail-oriented analysis of your product, while the non-exhaustive is a little bit easygoing and faster to implement. To get started with this, once you know that which product you want to focus on, you must do a thorough situation analysis from different standpoints of your organization. So here I have mentioned five important standpoints, which is organization, people, process, technology, and data assets. So you need to analyze your product and see it from these different standpoints. For example, when you talk about organizational standpoint, you we all know we keep on evolving. Our missions and vision and KPIs may evolve as well. So if your product is like 10 years old, your customers, you're delivering it to the customers, you have loyal customers, you need to understand if your product is really meeting the KPIs that matters to your organization in today's age. You need to do a thorough competition analysis to see if there are any competition who is delivering similar kind of uh, product, and analysis, performing portfolio analysis, and also understanding the geopolitical aspects, because the data governance rule and data security rules from the government point of view and the legal point of view, they keep on evolving, right? And in today's AI age, these things are more, we all hear about data bridge, and we need to make sure that we are covering and understanding how the geopolitical aspects are impacting your product. The second standpoint is from the people standpoint. Get a thorough analysis of who are your internal and external stakeholders. How many resources are involved? How many dollars are you investing in your resources? What kind of skill sets do people have currently who are working on your product? And who are your product owners? From the process standpoint, try to understand how different business units are communicating with each other. Who are the project managers? Who are product managers? What are the current automations that you are already using, and how they are being used? And most important is documentation management, how you are handling your current product and process documentations. But the fourth one is the technology standpoint. This is very important because the solutions that I will be discussing further will be based on technology. So just to get head start and understanding what is your current technology, what kind of tech stacks you are using. Are you using AWS? Are you using Azure or Google Data Factory or PySpark? Whatever technology that is involved in each in building that deliverable, you must list it down, and also try to understand what technology is available for its substitution. Is it a better technology or worse or expensive? That kind of understanding. Last but not the least is data assets. Every data product operations will have a certain data flow that goes from start to end until it is delivered to the customer. So we need to see if this the product data, is it properly governed? Can you track its lineage? How are you managing its quality? Are there any data assets that you may or your leadership may have invested probably 3 years ago, and then teams change and you are not even using the data asset, but you are still investing it? So are there any data assets that are not yet utilized? So as you can see, a situation analysis will make you aware of overall current environment in which your product thrives. Once you have all the insights from your situation analysis, you and your team is going to get like lots of ideas about how you're going to improve your product, or and even you're going to get lots of idea on building a whole new product, because you're going to do a market analysis as a part of situation analysis. So all these ideas and strategies must be put in three important buckets. One is new product development bucket, new feature addition bucket, and existing product innovation uh, bucket. As we know, we are here to focus your existing product, and building a new product is a whole new project which will require a lot high budget, higher timeline. And just to make sure and to avoid a strategic drift, I have given a rough chart on how these ideas in different bucket can affect your budget, timeline, and difficulty, and what kind of talent you may need. Now the next step is presenting your strategy, or whatever ideas do you have to your leadership. To do that, you must pick all the ideas and strategies which are falling in API bucket only. And based on the situation analysis, you should already have the data on what are the different hard and soft benefits of solving these challenges, and how it's gonna how what kind of revenue improvement it can do, and what kind of competitive advantage it is going to bring on to your organization, how much budget you're going to need, and sponsor timeline, and so on. As you must have noticed, I mentioned about the data flow, right, in product operation. So this is a data flow usually in a normal data product that you have. If you have really complex like an AI based product, this data flow will, you may need to make a little bit changes to this data flow, but usually it is like this. So in the capture stage, the data is read in unstructured format or even structured format, and then it is stored, whatever the data storage system that you're using, and then it is processed. So don't confuse operations with process. By process, I mean is ETL process, how you are extracting and transforming and loading your data. Are you using Kinesis or PySpark? What kind of different technology you are using to process your data? And once the ETL process is done, after that it is shared with different business unit, uh, uh, who are responsible for building those products, right? And the use and the deliver stage are the most important, and the use is the stage where the product operation truly falls. This is a stage where you're going to build the models. This is a stage where you're going to build the visualization. This is a stage where you're going to clean the data. So use stage is a very important stage to analyze as we move further. And then the deliver stage, how you are delivering this product to your customer. Do you have your own platform, or are you renting a platform, or in are you delivering it via email? And as you can see, if there is an arrow that I have mentioned, that is going from storage to deliver stage, and if you have not already implemented this, I highly recommend you do that, because you need to get an idea on how your consumer is behaving on your platform. That is a UI and UX data. So if you have your own platform on which you are delivering the product, you should analyze it to see how consumer is behaving on that platform or on that website, whatever it is. At some point of time, you should have a plan how you're going to retire your data, depending on that, because data storage can be expensive, and you need to have a smart plan to how to decide on how you're going to get rid of the data, depending on type of data, basically. So for example, if you're dealing with the demographic data, probably 60 years old of data could be relevant based on the product that you're dealing with, but maybe older than that may not be relevant, right? So you and your team should work on a plan to retire the product data. To solve, so now we have different problems and strategies that we have put in our EPI bucket, but it is very much important that we manage those strategies well. So balanced scorecards and smart OKRs are one of the commonly used strategies. I have been using smart OKRs for past 10 years, and it is very easy to understand. These are like simple statements that you can say, like, what is your goal, how much time you're going to need to reach that goal, and so on. And these strategies are very easy to even communicate with your leadership, so that will make your business case more stronger. The next step is prioritize, right? So in almost in all organizations, we have limited technology, we have limited resources. We must prioritize which problem you want to work on first, and then you, and which are the problems which you can focus on later. Price or the benefit impact metrics or prioritization metrics are the other tools which will help you to prioritize these problems. Moreover, these tools will make you aware of certain problems which are codependent on each other. In that case, you may just have to solve one problem, and the other problem will automatically get solved. At this point, we know which problem I want to solve first. Next step is doing a gap analysis. So if one of the problem statement is your ETL process is broken, or probably it's slow, the data churning rate is slow, then you need to understand, once you solve that particular problem, how does the process stage of that product looks like currently, and how it will look like in future. So really mapping out your current stage and the future stage, just to get an idea about the gap and what are the things that you need to work on to cover that gap. To do so, we have to do process mining. Process mining is nothing but identifying waste by disintegrating your product operation processes. For example, let's say you have a product, a recommendation systems, then there must be a team of data scientists who are continuously training the model. Then there could be a team of data analysts who is cleansing the data. Then there is a team of database management team who is doing the ETL process of the data, and then there might be team who is really doing the technological part of the data storage and so on. So really doing a thorough analysis of how each team is working on the from this product perspective, and drawing a process map. And in this process map, you should be really looking for wastes. Waste are the tasks basically not adding any value to your product. So for example, let's say unused enhancement, and I will go back to the previous example. If there was a team in in your product team, probably they may have built an application to do a good QC, quality checks for your product before it is delivered, and then the team changed and there was no documentation involved, and you are not, it's the tool is out there but you are not using it, so that is unused enhancement, so that is a waste, right? And then I just spoke about there is no documentation, then that kind of waste falls in unreproducible work. And if the handoffs between different teams are taking long time, then that is a waiting waste. So for example, the data scientist team is just spending probably 48 hours in training models and doing their stuff, and then I'm talking about here 2 days, and then there is a data cleansing team who is cleaning the data, probably taking only 2 hours, but the handoffs that are the waiting time in between them probably like 3 days. So right now we are only talking about the value. The true value is 48 hours plus 4 hours, but the waste is adding up as 3 days. So we should be looking out for these kind of waste if there are like too many teams involved and too many handoffs. And if there are too many handoffs, there is a lot of waste in communication, and so we should be looking out for these kind of problems. Before we move on now to get thinking of solution to get rid of these waste, we must take a stall and calculate these important metrics that will give you idea about efficiency of your process. As a human, when we are constantly monitored, and this is very common, this is a human psychology. When you're constantly monitored, you tend to do faster and better job. So it is very much important that you observe at least 2 to 4 production cycles to get an idea about what is the cycle time, what is the value, or how many defects or how many errors are you getting at different stages of your process, and that will give you a good judgment of your current operations. Waste are nothing but symptoms. These are just the surface level problems that you are seeing. We need to do a root cause analysis to understand what is the root cause of the problem, why, if we are seeing this, but we should always target to solve the root cause rather than the symptoms, as doctors do, right? So to do a root cause analysis, there are different tools like 5 Whys method, CRT, Pareto charts, fishbone diagram. My favorite one is 5 Why methods. I use it very often, almost day to day basis. And in this approach, we ask ourselves question why 5 times whenever we come across any problem. For example, if the ways that you have just identified is underutilized talent, then you should ask yourself and your team, why the resources sitting on the bench, and then probably answer could be there is no work for them. But then next question will be why there is no work for them, then answer could be there is no training. And why there is no training, there is no documentation, probably we do not have resources who can train them, they are overloaded with work. As you can see, you have already invested in this new in resources, but you are not even utilizing it, so that's a waste, and that's you're wasting dollars, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to hire those resources, and then you're not even using it. So that way you will get to the root cause of the issue. I caution you here, you shouldn't go beyond like 6 questions, because I have seen in many cases sometimes we go deep into the issue. Sometimes we lose focus on the surface main problem that we are trying to solve. So asking questions like 5 times is a good average amount of whys that you can go for to tackle these root causes. Okay, so now we have identified problems, and we know the root causes. Next step is finding out how we are going to solve them, right? How we are going to get rid of these root causes. That way, the surface level problems are fixed. I will be discussing with you 2 types of solution. One is cloud-based and one is non-cloud-based. One of the primary challenges of the legacy architecture, like the centralized lake system, in this type of architecture, the data is kept separated from the subject matter expertise. these SMEs are the product owners and the product analysts. These are the one who understand how you're using this data and how the data can be utilized to make a better business decisions. But when you have a centralized system, there is a lack of transparency. There could be some data assets that are available, but they are not loaded yet. That's why these SMEs are not even aware that these data assets are available. And for example, you are building, let's say, there is a model that is predicting risk, and probably you may need a demographic data, and you may already have demographic data that is other team might be using it for something else. But if the SME of this particular product is not aware, is not have do not have transparency of this availability of data, they cannot harness it to make your product better. So these are some of the challenges of the legacy data architecture. There are two modern architectures which will help you to overcome these challenges. They have their own pros and cons, but these are some of the latest ones which are now company adopting. Data fabric is kind of older as compared to data mesh. Data mesh is fairly new. Many organizations are still trying to figure out if that is even the right architecture for them. But you have to evaluate pros and cons of both the architecture. So in data mesh, that architecture truly empowers the business units, the SMEs. They give high ownership of the data, while keeping the centralized federated data security policies. That way, these SMEs have exposure of all the data that is available, and then the data sharing is also easier. For example, if you're dealing with the sales team or the customer analysis team, or who different teams are involved in building that particular product, the sharing between the data is fairly easier in the data mesh kind of architecture. But data fabric architecture keeps the centralized system intact, that style. However, it gives a AI based data recommendation system. For example, if you have a product team, right? Let's say data scientist, and they are building a high churning model, and they require, initially they said that they require 100 GB of data of instance every day. These kind of, the data fabric system has a beauty that the system itself will analyze the behavior of the resources, how they're utilizing the data. And over the course of time, after analyzing, if this system sees that, oh, 100 GB of data is not being truly utilized, it will give recommendation to these teams that if we cut down your instance by 50%, we don't think that your uh, model training activities will get impacted. So as you can see, these both of the systems, they both have their own pros and cons, but they provide you business flexibility and give you a perspective of seeing things from the business point of view and from the revenue point of view. The next type of solution is the data orchestration. If you have 15 plus years of experience, then you must have heard about tool called Cron, or you may have even worked on it, right? It is a scheduling job tool. But as these systems become more complex, the data is evolved, building jobs on Cron become more and more challenging. Some of the common challenges of the Cron is handling the interdependency of the job, and then assessing the performance of this tool is really complicated when it comes to job scheduling. The latest tools like AWS Glue, Apache Airflow, Azure Data Factory, these are the tools which not only overcomes these challenges, but also helps you break the data silos. For example, if you have team in India who is doing the database management, then you have team in Canada who is doing data cleansing operation. These are physically separated teams who are communicating with each other. But if you have a flexible tool like Apache Airflow, the communication between these and collaboration between these three teams will be much more smoother. The teams will realize what are each other needs, so it will break the data silos that we most of the organizations experience nowadays. And the most important aspect and really I would say benefit of using these tools is scalability. If you have a product and you have built a good data orchestration and process flow, how the jobs are going to go about, you have set of practices now that you can think of, right? When you're building, orchestrating these jobs in using these tools, you can scale or mimic this entire system to the whole different product with minimal invasion, or probably you do not have to draw something from scratch. So it these tools gives you transparency of these different aspects of the system. So as we know, the cloud technology is the solution, is the technology that every company should go for, right? But even in today's age, there are many companies who are still working on the company based infrastructure, traditional legacy systems. And cloud transformation can be very time consuming and not so budget friendly. So we need to have some solution for these companies, right? How they are going to go about innovating their products operation. So RPA technology is like it provides a custom designed automation facilities that will help you to reduce the process gaps, reduce waste, and eventually making your product operation better. The softwares like Blue Prism, UiPath, and most easily available. I highly recommend to each of you to go ahead and explore this tool called Microsoft Power Automate. It is easily, if your company is using Microsoft operating system, it may already have that in their package. This tool is so powerful, you can connect different Microsoft systems and really make a seamless process flow across different units that you're talking about. So RPA implementation is easy, it is non-invasive, and it can accelerate your next digital transformation strategy. It is ideal for all the companies where you do not have like APIs to connect different units, or you do not have virtual desktop infrastructures to talk to each other, where the remote work is kind of challenging. In this kind of system, this type of technology is very easy to implement. The next strategy that I will be talking about is non-exhaustive product innovation strategy. While comprehensive innovation strategy is as you must have noticed, it is very detail oriented. It needs a lot of leadership support and a different perspective to go about that. And if your leadership is not that supportive, or maybe that is not their priority, so that should not hamper your goal to innovate your product operation. You can do domain based process mining to get started with probably a domain based innovation project, right? So for in this domain based process mining methodology, you will be focusing only on operations that are happening within your team, or maybe the teams in which the data handoffs are happening. So if you're working with the data team of data analysts, and then there is a product analyst team, so probably the workflow that is happening between these two teams can be drawn out on a swim lane map or something like that. And later you can do a root cause analysis, identify those ways, the way I explained earlier, and work on fixing those problems. I have to give you a caution over here. Once you identify these ways and find out root causes, you're it's very common to think that, since we are all from the technology point, like background, we all think, oh, we need to automate this and we need to automate that. But the important part is, if your process is already erroneous and it has a lot of defects, you're just making a bad process faster. That's all automate is going to do, and you shouldn't do that. Your goal should be reducing those defects. Your goal should be getting rid of those different kind of waste that I just discussed. So it is very much important to understand requirements of your internal customers. For example, if you're dealing with the product analyst team, then and try to understand what they are doing, what is their operations, what are their requirements when you guys do those handoffs in between your different business unit. This, you have to spend a good amount of time in calculating the process metrics and prioritizing different business problems which you're going to solve first. And this way your go-to solution may not be even automation. It could be probably a better documentation or a different way of communication. So that is a word of caution that I will give it to everyone. As we come to the conclusion, I would like to give you an advice that once the improvement is done, you should you should spend important like more amount of time to install a feedback loop. So this feedback loop is going to analyze and see if your the current new methodologies that you just implemented are working well for you. You probably should have a programs to catch those errors and document those errors. That way in future, if you identify there are more issues that are coming up, then you can work on fixing those issues, right? Apart from that, you should empower your frontline staff, your product analysts, your data analysts, and train them to identify these process gaps and see these process gaps, because they are the one who are going to give you the true feedback about what is happening at the grassroots level. So they need a proper training to understand how the process flows and how the product operation is working, how this product is bringing in some kind of revenue to the company. And last but not the least is industry awareness. Your leadership and even everyone basically should be aware of what kind of different technologies that are available in the market, and can we do those kind of investments. The more flexible you keep your operations, the it will be more easier for you in future to implement those technology at much ease. So that's it with my presentation. This is my personal email address and my LinkedIn link. You can feel free to message me with questions, or even I would like to grow my network as well. So feel free to connect with me.
Wow, that's a very insightful presentation, Pradnya. I mean, I didn't realize that there were so many tips and tricks, right? We can actually learn from your presentation on how we can actually put innovation into action. Thank you for that. We do have some questions in the Q&A. Allow
Mhm.
me to so-called look at it first. Right. One of the questions, let me just project that out for you and everybody else. So this is from Sebastian. Sebastian is actually quite curious on the diagram. This is referring one of the diagrams, right? It says
Mhm.
higher value product tends to be less scalable. So I think that's a comment that Sebastian is making. Does generative AI allows for more scalability of high value product? Could you help Sebastian out on this one, Pradnya?
Yeah, sure. So it really depends where your company is starting right now. Okay,
Right.
it really depends. If your company is already have is using this modern technology, scalability is easier. But if you are still in that digital transformation phase, it
Mm,
may not be easier. You may have, because, and this is my personal experience.
right.
We have this. I'm in insurance analytics field, right? And
Mm,
we do have these different models which were set in the traditional technology, and
right.
moving those products to the modern technology was challenging, and even scaling those products if different to different lines of business was kind of challenging, because it is a traditional technology, but these new technology will give you a step ahead on scalability.
Right.
But as compared to the simple products like tables, if you're delivering some data insights in the format of table to the customers, it is much more easier to scale those products. They are less complex. So
Yep.
I was talking from that perspective. I hope
I
it
see.
answers your
Okay.
question.
I think we need to be conscious of the technology depth that we have in each of our so-called ecosystem in that sense, right? So it may be easy, it may not be. I think we have to look at it from a case by case basis. I think that's how I looked at it, because in some of the organizations that I consult with, they do have some legacy systems that really they can't replace, they can't upgrade. It's been there for like the last 15 years or so, or even sometimes even longer. So
Yeah.
yeah, I understand. Right. Thank you for that, Pradnya. Let's look at another question that has been posted anonymously. Let
Mhm.
me just project the question. So the question is asking, how dependent is innovation on the size of the team? I think they're trying to understand what type of, I mean, how big the team should be when you do innovation, right? With
Yeah.
AI, could a small team be just as effective as a team with more people? I think we're talking about two things here. One is, what is the right size of innovation if we were supposed to set up a team?
Mhm.
And second of all, how could AI perhaps augment a smaller team in that sense? Over to you, Prana.
Yeah, sure. So there's a very good question, and one of the common issues that many teams face, because every team has their own priorities within the
Mhm.
organization and their goals to meet, right? Our yearly annual goals that we talk about. So usually the team of 2 to 3 people is good enough just to
Okay,
get started. And what I think is uh, really working with your neighboring teams. I think that
right.
is much more effective,
Mhm.
because if you start collaborating on, like, on sideways, as I can say, because, right, there are handoffs of data from different business units, and if you start working collaborating sideways, you can really expand your network and try to convince them what is your perspective. Probably the problem that you're trying to solve might be other
Mhm.
team already solved, and
Mhm.
you might
Possible.
be doing that
Yeah.
job 2 times, right? So it is
Mm.
very much important to understand who are your internal customers, and that's the first
Mm.
step of the innovation culture. At grassroots level,
Okay.
really understanding at domain base how the data is flowing, how the business units are collaborating each other. And I
Right.
cannot stress enough the importance of collaboration. That is the important part, which is kind of underestimated. People don't talk about it, but it is so important. You can do so
Agree.
many things with collaboration, right? So that is something I
Yeah.
highly stress on.
I agree with you. Actually, just to add on, in some of the design thinking courses that I conduct for some of our clients out there, I also recommend them to, like you said, include your so-called teams that are surrounding you, because you definitely need to look at the inclusion of the people on the ground. That's very, very valid. Like you said, in your presentation, they will give you the truthful feedback, what's
Yeah,
going on, whether the process is working or otherwise, or where they see the potential pain point or problem is, that will help you to really come to a clarity of how you should actually move forward with those kind of solution and feedback, right? So yeah, I think that's very, very much aligned to the design thinking way of moving things around in
yeah,
that sense. Yeah. Right. Let's look at another question. I think we have one more question here. Let me just try and project that. This question also is coming from Sebastian. So he's asking for, what are the best practices to stay on top and to be updated with industry trends and advancement? I mean, as things change very fast, right? I think you and I are in the technical field. I think Sebastian is interested to know, how could we actually, stay up to date, especially before the competition picks up on that.
yeah.
So that's stay ahead of your competitor. So what do you say, Prana, on this one?
I One thing that I personally do, I subscribe to the newsletters.
Right.
But that is something I highly recommend. One news that is data engineering
Oh,
podcast.com or
okay.
something. It's really
Right.
interesting. They have interesting podcasts. I recently
Mm,
learned about the eBay who implemented data mesh technology, and I learned about it. And there, you see, there are people, the teams, these big companies, they have teams who are thinking outside the box, and we should always look
absolutely.
out for what they are doing, what kind of technology they are using. And these are, I think newsletter are the best resources I can think of, because if
Mm,
you have a particular interest like data engineering, then you do have medium.com. They have amazing tech news that is available and freely available, so you can keep
right.
yourself up to date about what is happening.
Yep. And on top of that, perhaps to help Sebastian out, for me personally, apart from what you've suggested, Prana, to stay in touch with newsletter, which I do spend a lot of time
Yeah,
catching up on reading, is actually to perhaps attend additional training courses, specialized or in those specific field that you're interested in that sense, right? So I think that will help to solidify your understanding, because it's not just about reading them, it's to really learn the new technology, the new knowledge, and to apply them in our day to day. I think that will help us to at least stay ahead of the competition, hopefully.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, the ML ops field is emerging, right?
Yes.
How you're operating your machine learnings and different models. So that is very much important because you need to have a set of practices where you can scale. Again, we come back to the scaling. You are setting these practices. These are going to be your foundation where you can
Hmm.
do better in future. So that is very much important to, even the taking those new courses and stuff. So that will really help.
Another point just to add, it's also important to join a community of like-minded people so that you
Yes.
can actually share some of the best practices that you mentioned. I actually have a few groups that I join, which I actually learn, from my peers, or how do you do this? How do you do that? And then if you have a problem, you can say, hey, I need help kind of thing, the solution, will be coming up kind of thing. Yeah, I think that's very, very good advice for our audience out there. Right. With this on the dot, thank you again, Pratna, for being our guest speaker today. It was very insightful. Like I said, I've learned a lot of good stuff from you. Thank you again for joining us
Thank you
for this
so much
session.
for having me. I had so much fun and always excited to learn something from others and, share my knowledge. That's how you grow,
No
right?
worries. Okay, thank you, Prana. So for those of us who are hanging on, I would like you to wait for the next session, which is our so-called the closing remark for the day. Please do join us in that last session. It's going to be an interesting one, hosted by Mr. Jordan, who will talk about a little interesting topic. I'm going to keep that as a secret. So join us there, and then we'll see you then. All right. Thank you,
Thank
Prana. Have
you.
a good day as well.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys. Take care.